So yeah, they showed that pseudocode, and then they say that the base dialog class, uses different UI elements to render its window. So they say that basically we have a dialog class, which can be or either interface or abstract class or concrete class, but it's still like abstract because it's just a skeleton for these classes. So the base dialog class uses different UI elements to render its window. It means that we have different classes implementing this class or extending this class, implementing the interface dialog or extending the class dialog, whichever we choose. So under various operating systems, these elements may look a little bit different, but they should still behave consistently. A button in Windows is still a button in Linux. I think this is like trash. Sorry, but I don't really get this thing because yeah, it just it does not comply or interfere with this image. So this is like okay, this is information like really like information is acceptable, but we don't have here Windows button, we don't have here Linux button. They say that a button in Windows is still a button in Linux, but here you don't propose Linux button. If here we will see Linux button, then okay, that the text matches the image, but it does not. Under various operating systems, these elements may look a little bit different, but they should still behave consistently. So when the factory method comes into play, you don't need to rewrite the logic of the dialog class for each operating system. That is, this means basically that we have this dialog class, and we don't actually need to modify it somehow when the new dialog, the new, for example, we have Windows dialog, we have web dialog, we can say we have Mac dialog, we can say that we have Linux or Android button or iOS button. You get the point. We don't need to modify dialog, the dialog class for that in order to add some of the other options depending on the operating system, for example. So if we declare a factory method that produces buttons inside the base dialog class, we can later create a subclass that returns Windows style buttons from the factory method. Okay. The subclass then inherits most of the code from the base class, but thanks to the factory method, can render Windows looking at buttons on the screen. So basically, this I think totally complies with this, right? But here we need actually some of the other buttons to show clearly that we can actually implement buttons for other operating systems and not for operating system and HTML, like the browser. The browser HTML is like on Linux, on Windows, on macOS. In the browser, for example, in Chrome, it's the same HTML. So I think this text can be aligned more with the image, but it's up to me to go to this to man that produces such a beautiful website. So for this pattern to work, the base dialog class. So yeah, when you don't understand, I now I understand totally that this does not comply to this image. But someone who will read this, for example, he would think, oh, I'm just an idiot. I don't really understand what's going on here. What is Linux? Why Linux? We have here Windows, but we don't have Linux. Oh my gosh, maybe I am idiot. I'm not. I don't even understand that. For this pattern to work, the base dialog class must work with abstract buttons, a base class or an interface that all concrete buttons follow. This way the code within dialog remains functional whichever type of buttons it works. So let's say that we have dialog class which depends on abstraction on interface button or on interface or abstract class. We have render, we have on click, all right? It does not depend on actual implementation, whether it will be Windows, HTML, maybe Linux, maybe Mac OS, maybe Android or iOS. So no. It depends on the abstraction, and that's right. That's the core principle of extensible systems, where when we depend on abstractions, not on concrete details that can change. So for this pattern to work, the base dialog class must work with abstract buttons. So yeah, it works with abstract buttons, a base class or an interface that all concrete buttons follow. Yeah, a base class, this is the base class or interface that all concrete buttons follow. These concrete buttons follow this interface. This way the code within dialog remains functional, whichever type of buttons it works with. Of course, you can apply this approach to other UI elements as well. However, with each